another episode of Last Minute Laura. My name is Laura, and in today's video we are going to make this crocheted vest. Links to all of the items that I'm using for this are in the description box down below, but I am going to just go over the ingredients beforehand. So I'm using Briggs and Little wool. I'm using their Regal weight wool. This green one is actually a custom dyed that I did with onion skins and concord grapes. And then I'm also using the yellow white O from the Regal line. Again, I'll link that in the description. For this project, you're also going to need a 5mm crochet hook. I'm using this aluminum one just because it's what I prefer to use, but use whatever you want. You're also going to need some scissors and a measuring tape. I'm doing this in kind of a measurement-wise, not by stitches. So you're also going to need a yarn needle. That's just for weaving in your ends at the end. It just makes it really helpful. And that's pretty much all of the ingredients. So to get started, I'm using the yellow, and I'm going to do a ribbed pattern for the bottom of the vest. First, create a slip knot and then chain 57. After you chain 57, double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and then double crochet all the way across. At the end of that first row, chain 2 and turn. Okay, and there's my chain 2. So for row number 2, which is what we're doing now, we're going to front post double crochet in the first stitch, and then in the next stitch we're going to back post double crochet. We're going to repeat that all the way across. Front post double crochet, back post double crochet. If you don't know how to do a front post or back post double crochet, I will link a video in the description down below that's a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more close-up so that you can kind of see how to do that. If you've done it before, basically we're going to do 5 rows of rib stitching. So now we're on row number 3. We're going to do the reverse. The first stitch is going to be a back post double crochet, and then the following stitch will be a front post, the next one will be a back post, and we'll repeat that all the way across. At this point, it'll be pretty obvious where your bars for your rib stitch are. And if you accidentally do the wrong way, you'll notice it pretty quickly. It'll start to look like a basket weave, whereas we want it to look like nice little poles sticking right up. Now we're at row number 4. For row number 4, we're just going to repeat row number 2, which is front post double crochet, back post double crochet. And then row number 5, we're just going to repeat row number 3. So back post double crochet, front post double crochet. You can keep going if you want the ribbed part of your vest to be wider, and you could stop earlier if you want the ribbed part to be more narrow. I just liked this sort of about 2 inches of ribbing. It's very, it looked cute, so that's the reason I picked that. Okay, and just before finishing my final double crochet, I trimmed my yarn and I attached that custom dyed blue and green yarn onto my project. And then I finished the double crochet with the blue and green yarn, and I did a chain 1 and turned it around. Now it's easy peasy. From row 6 all the way through to row 14, it's just single crochet all the way across. So complete 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way across. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn, and then do that again all the way until you complete row number 14. At row number 14, come on back and we'll get started on the arm shaping. Also, I'm totally obsessed with how this yarn turned out. After a couple of washes, the greens have really brightened up, and if you can see, I'm wearing it right now, it's kind of like Monet's water lilies. That's the vibe that I got from it. I almost actually did some water lily embroidery on here, but I didn't want to cover up the beautiful color of the yarn. I love how it pooled. It kind of made a really unique sort of color that nobody else has. So this is actually a one-of-a-kind vest. And you can make your own one-of-a-kind vest too. Just buy some white yarn and check out one of my other tutorials. I do make natural dye tutorials for yarn, for wool, and I'm using those all the time now. So lots more to come. Again, if you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. I'm making tons of new videos all the time now, and with summer here, I am totally inspired. So let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next, and yeah. Don't forget to subscribe though. Okay, so after 14 rows of single crochet, I'm gonna get all the way to the end, chain 1 and turn, and then for row number 15, I'm going to slip stitch into the first 2 stitches of the row, and then I'm going to single crochet all the way across, leaving the last stitch unworked. So that first slip stitch into the first stitch will leave a gap. The second slip stitch, we chain 1 and then single crochet across, so that one counts as a single crochet. So we're only leaving the last 1 stitch unworked, and that's going to create that first beginning of the curve of the armpits. So for the next row, we're going to do the same thing. For row 16, we're going to slip stitch into the first 2 stitches of the row, and then single crochet all the way across, leaving the last 1 stitch unworked. For row 17, 18, 19, and 20, we're going to do that exact same thing. We're going to slip stitch into the first 2 stitches, chain 1, single crochet across, leave the last stitch unworked, turn around. Slip stitch into the first 2, chain 1, single crochet across, leaving the last stitch unworked. That's going to create a bit of a curve. You can see here, it begins to reduce the number of stitches, so you're going to have both sides coming in up the chest with that green yarn. Okay, so now we're on row number 21. For row 21, 22, 23, and 24, we're just single crochet across. Nothing fancy, just single crochet all the way to the end, chain 1 and turn, single crochet all the way back. So we're going to go all the way to row 24, single crochet across. Okay, so now it's time that we're going to switch into the yellow yarn. I'm just counting from either end so that I know exactly where the middle stitch is, and I'm marking the middle stitch so that I don't go any farther than I should. I want the V in the V-neck to be totally symmetrical. So I finished the stitch with that yellow yarn, and then I single crochet all the way to that middle stitch. So I do put a single crochet in that middle stitch, and that's the first step. If you're using a different measurement, for example, if you've made yours slightly bigger, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is mark that center stitch and work all the way to it. The number of stitches isn't really important here. So after I make my way to the middle stitch, I skip the first stitch and put a single crochet into the second stitch. I turn without chaining 1. And then I crochet single crochets all the way to the end of that row. At the end of the row, I chain 1 and turn. And then I single crochet all the way to the end of this row, which will now be 1 stitch in from the last row. And on the end of this row, I'll turn around again, and I'm not chaining, I'm skipping the first stitch and single crocheting into the second stitch, and then single crocheting across. This is basically reducing the number of stitches in a straight line as opposed to creating a bit of a jagged line like we did for the armpit. This is going to create a reduction that is a straight line. So for row 29, we're doing the same thing again, single crochet all the way to the end, including the last stitch, and then turn around. No chain 1 and turn at the end of this row. And then for row number 30, we skip the first stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and then single crochet across. We're going to complete this same reduction from row number 30 all the way up to row number 40. We're going to keep reducing only from the one side and keeping the other side straight all the way up. Okay, now we're on row number 41. For row number 41, we're going to put 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then we're going to single crochet across as normal. We're going to turn at the end of that row, skip that first stitch still, single crochet all the way across. And then in row number 43, 45, and 47, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put an increase, which is 2 stitches in that first stitch. We're going to complete 2 single crochets in the first stitch on that outside of the bodice. So that's going to begin shifting the direction of the shoulder area so that the V-neck continues going up, but now the shoulder is also becoming parallel with that V-neck. So for row 41, we've put 2 in the first stitch, 42, normal, 43, 2 in the first stitch, 44, normal, 45, 2 in there, 46, normal, and we're going to do that, like I said, all the way up until number 47, and then 48, we're going to stop our decreases on the inside, and we're going to do row 49 to 54 will just be a basic single crochet across. I hope the video does a little bit better explaining than me, because I feel like I understand how to make it. Sometimes the instructions don't come across totally clearly. So if something isn't clear, let me know in the comments and I'll definitely reach out to you and hopefully provide some clarification as to how I did it. At the end though, the way I always try to know my shoulders are finished is when I get down to 10, 12, or 15 stitches, depending on how wide you want your shoulders. Just keep reducing your V-neck until the shoulder is about 10, 15, 12 stitches across. And that's just going to be a good measurement for most shoulders, and also the V will have separated out quite a bit at that point. Easily modifiable though, if you're a larger lady and you want to keep going, you just have to keep adding the increases on the other side so that your V can widen a little bit more gradually, I'll say, and you can get a little bit more length in the torso. Okay, so now I am showing 49 to 54, just a single crochet across, and that's just going to finish off your front shoulder. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, just mirroring that those stitches. I will say this is a really important piece to block. If you're somebody who doesn't do blocking when you crochet, this one really benefits from being blocked because those shoulder pieces do try to curl in on themselves if you're a tight crocheter, and blocking it will help prevent that from happening. So I finished that first piece, and now I'm going back all the way to row 21 to 24. So I'm on row 24 now. And for the back, I'm going to do 25 to 50 straight across. So the front and the back are exactly the same up to this point, up until row number 24. So again, for the back piece now, I'm going to single crochet all the way across from rows 25 to 50. At this point, I am going to switch in to the yellow yarn just to keep the front and back kind of even. I wanted to use a little bit more of that blue in the back. That's why I reattached the blue-green color. I was just so excited about it. Isn't it so pretty? I made it with grapes and onions. Can you imagine? Well, if you can't imagine, I will link the video down below where I make that yarn bright blue and green with onions and concord grapes. Okay, so now we are getting to a point where we're going to be making the back shoulders a little wider. So up until row 36, I'm single crocheting across with my blue and green hand-dyed yarn. For row 37, I'm switching to the yellow and I'm doing 1 row of single crochet. For row 38, I am increasing at both ends of the stitches, both ends of the row I should say, but I'm single crocheting across. So for the first stitch, I'm putting 2 stitches in. For the last stitch, I'm putting 2 stitches in. Otherwise, 1 stitch in every stitch across. Then for the next row, regular single crochet across. Then for row number 40, an increase again. And then for row 41, a regular row again. And then row 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46, we're going to do single crochets across all the way up to row number 50. On row number 51, we're going to single crochet into the first 16 stitches and then turn around. We're going to slip stitch into the first 4 stitches, chain 1, and then single crochet across. For the next row, we'll single crochet into the first 12 stitches, then we're going to turn around. Then we're going to slip stitch into the first 3 stitches, chain 1, and single crochet across. We're basically going to do a reduction row for that back collar to the point that there are 10, 12, or 15 stitches depending on how you're making it. For me, I made it so that there's 10 stitches to connect the shoulders. I'm just reducing that back neckline by slip stitching into the first few stitches, then chaining 1, making a little staircase to curve out that neckline. And I made a few more rows just in case I needed them in 10 stitches back and forth. I think I went up to 55. Okay friends, so I'm popping in off the voiceover style thing to show you the pieces now that they are both blocked and both dry, and I'm going to do some measurements so that you can see if you follow my stitches how big the actual piece measures. So I'm going to start with the front piece before we put it together. The front, the rib stitch is about 2 inches high or 5 centimeters high. The waist or across the garment is 17 inches or 43 centimeters. The chest area is just about 13 inches. That reduction area, if we measure that, is just about 3 inches on either side. The total height of the vest is 19 inches. From the V up to the top of the shoulder is 9 inches. And, maybe the V splits at about 6.5 inches, right in the middle there. And then we've got the back piece, which should be pretty similar for the across measurements. See, it's 18 right now, which is okay. I did block them a little bit differently because they were blocked on different days. Still 2 inches for the ribbing at the bottom. Across the chest here is a little bit bigger. I kept it bigger on purpose. It's 14 inches. And then I actually expanded it out a little bit farther in the top portion of the shoulders, and that area is 15 inches. So I did 1/2 inch on either side just to bring it out so that it would match up with the front shoulders. Oops. Sorry, Thunder. And the shoulder straps are just about 3 inches. They're 10 stitches. Both the front and back shoulder straps are going to be 10 stitches. And then the gap between the shoulders and the back is 9 inches. And the gap between the shoulders and the front is also 9 inches. So we got them matched up perfectly. And now I'm going to move on to final assembly. Okay, so to assemble the vest, we're gonna find the front side and the back side of the fabric. So this is the front side, and this is the back piece of the vest. So we're gonna lay that down. And then which one is the front side here? So this is the front side. So we want the two front sides touching. So I'm gonna put that face down on top. And now we're going to slip stitch or single crochet or sew those shoulder seams together. I'm going to do a slip stitch. And this is such a simple part because there's only 10 stitches across. It's very easy to complete this one. So I'm just looping my yarn with my 5mm crochet hook through that first stitch. And then I'm going to insert into the next stitch with the hook. Oh wait, no, loop through first, and then I'm gonna chain one, right, to secure my stitch. Hello. And then I'm going to insert into the second stitch for both pieces of fabric. And then I'm gonna complete a slip stitch through there. And then I'm just gonna go across the shoulder, slip stitching this whole shoulder together. Okay, and now that I'm at the end, I'm just going to do a chain one and then pull that tight and trim it off. And I will weave that end in a little bit. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm actually going to start from the other side as well, just so that we're coming in on both ends. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing. There we go. Perfect. Now we are going to move on to these side seams. So I'm going to do the rib stitch part with yellow yarn, and then I'm going to switch into the variegated green yarn to attach the body sides together. Still working with my slip stitches. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. For these side seams, I'm going to use a single crochet. I kind of want to bind the seam in if I can. So I'm going to start the same way with a loop over, and then I'm going to insert my hook and just complete single crochets across. I kind of just want to see if that will give me a more secure sweater in the end. There we go. And now I'm going to switch in to the green yarn, green and blue. And I'm going to do single crochets all the way up that side seam. And there we go. So I'm just going to chain one, snip it off, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. Okay, so the vest itself is sewn together now. You can see it has vest qualities. Now what we're going to do is single crochet all the way around here. I'm going to use yellow, and then we're going to single crochet all around the neckline. I'm going to use yellow for that as well. And I'm going to just do that a little bit sped up because it's just single crochets. But after that, it's going to be time for the reveal. And here she is, the cropped naturally dyed vest. I love how this thing turned out. It's so cozy, it's so soft. I love that it's handmade. The V-neck is a comfortable, regular person depth, I would say. You can see the different colors of the naturally dyed yarn, and you can see how that ribbed stitch makes it look like a fun, finished, fancy little vest. Anyway, friends, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.